Let's move on to the disrupting force in this whole area, and that is the Pacific trial. Wally, do you just want to say a few words about what Pacific is for those people that have not had a chance to see a medical journal in the last 6 months?
So Pacific's the term which refers to a two-arm phase 3 blinded trial, which for patients with stage 3 disease published, the first part of the results published late last year in the New England Journal. So over 700 patients were enrolled in the study, which randomized patients after chemoradiation for stage 3 disease between durvalumab and a placebo with two co-primary endpoints, one being progression-free survival and the other being survival. And there was a 2-to-1 randomization ratio favoring the durva arm. And the results, which came out last year, showed a very statistically significant advantage in progression-free survival favoring the durva arm. Survival data has not been reported yet. I think most people expect it later in 2018. And if you look at every subgroup that we normally divide stage 3 patients into, there is a benefit favoring durva over placebo in the consolidation phase.
A question about the rationale for putting a immune checkpoint blocker with other therapies. Is there a particular reason why it would be a good agent to combine with radiation or concurrent chemotherapy radiation?
You know, there's lots of laboratory data and what I would describe as growing clinical data that checkpoint inhibition is actually, its activity is actually strengthened and accelerated by radiation. In this particular setting, it's not the classic experimental design where you give a full course of radiation, you have a several-week break, and then you give a checkpoint inhibitor. Most of the trials have looked at a closer temporal relationship and have actually looked then at responsive disease outside the radiation field as somehow evidence that the checkpoint inhibition has actually been helped by radiation. So this is not the classic experimental design of the so-called abscopal effect, but still what I think everyone who's looked at the data views as an extraordinary and landmark trial.
Mm-hmm. And are there any things about any trial design issues that you think need some further clarification or unique aspects of this trial? Well, in terms of the radiation first.
Sure. It was different than almost every other stage 3 trial, particularly the phase 3 trials, in which because the registration and randomization happened after the chemoradiation, and it really was available for those patients who were basically non-progressors on chemoradiation. So all the guidelines regarding radiation quality, all the steps regarding the dosing and schedule of chemotherapy that really have become kind of part of the quality assurance of trials in Europe, Japan, or the United States were absent here. And when you have such a dramatic result, you wonder whether there was perhaps an uneven balance between the arms of risk factors for progression. Because, you know, the arms broke very early, surprisingly early. I don't have an answer as to why that was the case, but, you know, we will see other studies interrogating this issue. So I think we'll get more guidance on it. But there's nothing that's been available to the medical public to explain why or if there's any maldistribution between the two arms.
Yeah, also I'm wondering too though, is there something different about the early stages of lung cancer and the responses to checkpoint inhibitors? Again, I'm involved in a number of the neoadjuvant trials, right. And I think people are very surprised at the profound benefit that we see, and not radiographic benefit, but pathologic benefit in those resection specimens.
Yeah.
There's that nivolumab experience presented at ASCO last year, about a 40% pathologic complete response rate with 2 doses of single agent nivolumab. And again, with chemotherapy in that setting, you'd expect about a 15 or 20%. And we're seeing the same thing now with atezolizumab. So it may be that there's something about having an intact tumor lymph node system that makes it more amenable to immune checkpoint blockade.